one of the reasons why I got the electric dirt bike was because I'm interested in off-road riding, and I do think that electric bikes offer a gateway to beginner riders that maybe gas bikes don't offer. They are, in my opinion, easier to ride, just simpler all round. It's a simpler machine, simpler to ride, less maintenance. There is still maintenance, but it's less for sure. And they're not as big, maybe a little bit more agile, or a lot more agile. But yeah, the electric bike is going to keep me interested for a while, because I've never ridden off-road on 2 wheels before. Yes, I've done a lot on 4 wheels with quad bikes, but not motorcycles. So that electric bike is still going to keep me interested. And if you were to go for an electric dirt bike as your beginner bike, because maybe you were unsure about doing the gears and the clutch and that kind of thing, it is still going to keep you interested in the fact that you could do off-road riding if you wanted to. So it does have that kind of longevity mix in there as well, but maybe not in the same way as this kind of bike. But someone else would say this bike, the KTM 390 Duke, wouldn't be something that would keep them interested for very long, because it would just very quickly become too small and not enough power. But you know, there's other people who say this isn't a beginner bike, this is a weapon on the track and on the roads as well, so because it's so small and agile and light, that kind of thing. It's a unfair and fair comparison at the same time, or simultaneously, in the sense that if we're looking at it with a learner rider in mind, or learner riders in mind, that not having to worry about doing the clutch, it does save a lot of brain power, a lot of thought, less, yeah, there's just less to do. So yeah, just here we're on the 100 stretch on the electric bike. I was completely pinned and topping out at about, I think it was like 96 from memory, when it was on this way out on the loop, when the battery had a bit more charge. And then as the battery went down, it was more heading towards 90, and then when the battery was pretty much depleted, it was doing 88. But I'm doing the same loop right now, so I'm actually going to change lanes to get across so I can turn around, but it feels like it's come around a lot quicker on this, for sure, even though I've been doing the exact same speeds because I've been following the speed limits. I don't know, it just feels like you're not limited in any way. That was on the electric bike, I felt when I got here like, how much further can I go, kind of thing. Whereas on this, I do still get some form of range anxiety, but it's just different because I know that I can go a hell of a lot further on a full tank on this than I can on a full tank on the electric bike, as it were. I've already defaulted back into my gas bike riding, like leaning the bike over to the left right now. On the electric I was leaning it to the right because I could put my right foot down, and that felt pretty cool. But yeah, I thought it was going to be a thing, but it really isn't. And even holding the clutch in now and being in first gear, I've just defaulted back. Like there, it's 100 along here, and on the Ultra Bee I couldn't get up to 100, no chance with that battery dropping down. But on this, I mean, it's just not a fair comparison at this point. But with talking about learners, so everyone's different. Even with gas bikes, what bike's right for you as a learner or at any point in your life is probably going to be completely different to everybody else. So it's kind of, if for you an electric bike seems like the right thing to do, then yeah, why not? Just basically in a nutshell, it just feels like this bike is just eating this loop up. It's not a very long loop for this bike. I am trying to keep an eye on the fuel gauge just to see how we're going and that kind of thing, but yeah, this thing's just eating this loop up. It's not a long loop by any means. The speeds aren't anything too dramatic. Yes, I do have more to think about operating the vehicle, but just kind of just go into default muscle memory, and it's just, you don't even think about what you're doing half the time. Yes, I do check my mirrors a fair bit. I apologize if that means the camera's wobbling around some, but it's realistic, and checking your mirrors is a big part of riding safe. I mean, I guess there is more weight to this thing, there's more mass, so once you are moving and cruising kind of thing, that is going to make it feel smoother maybe. Back on the bumpy Fullerton Cove Road. Seat feels more comfortable. The riding position's actually pretty similar, to be fair. It's, I wouldn't say there's anything too big deal to write home about with the riding position, really. It is slightly different, it's a bit more aggressive on this. You are slightly more tucked and leant forward, but it's really not that big of a thing. So just coming up to this bit here where it's been washed out, it just got me thinking, like I was saying, how this feels like a more capable machine compared to the electric bike. But as someone once said to me when I first got this bike and I was talking about the dunes and stuff, and they're like, don't take it on the dunes. It's like, yeah, I wasn't planning to take it on the dunes. This bike would not get very far on the dunes. I think we could all agree. But the Surron Ultra Bee R, or just the regular Surron Ultra Bee, the 2025 one that's just come out now, or my one, which is the 2024 Ultra Bee R, they're very similar bikes. They're basically the same. It's that kind of 19-18 wheel combo. Yeah, my tires are all trains versus the off-road tires that you'd get with the non-R version. Anyway, those bikes, they are capable off-road, whereas this one clearly isn't. So talking about that longevity, or you know, the future, something that you could grow into, so talking about growth, I'm still happy on this bike. That's partly why I chose to get this one, was because I thought it had room for growth. Someone was talking to me about that with this bike in mind. Yes, I could have gone for a different bike and it would have had growth in mind as well, but just all things considered, this is the bike that I went for. And I could not take this off-road. I don't even know if I could take this on a gravel road, really. I mean, a more skilled rider could probably do it on gravel regardless. You know, some people can take pretty much anything off-road, but I think it's fair for me to say, or I would argue that it's fair for me to say, that this is by no means an off-road bike. And yeah, okay, you could argue back saying, well, you could have gone for like an enduro. There's plenty of bikes in the range that are for off-road, and you've got your kind of touring bikes, your ATVs or whatever, like you can do a bit of everything. Yeah, fair enough. But I'm talking about this specific bike. This was the bike that people were saying was good for a beginner, the naked version in particular. And with the Surron Ultra Bee, that thing could go off-road, so there is a difference there. Price-wise, the two bikes are pretty similar price-wise. The electric one was probably a smidge more expensive from memory. The electric one was a lot harder to get insurance for, that's for sure, so that's another point to consider. Parts, I'd say parts is probably similar for both. KTM is a well-known brand and lots of aftermarket parts. You can get them official parts, or yeah, non-official parts, and the same goes for Surron. One of the big thing about Surron and why they are a big one in the electric world is the aftermarket parts, be it official or unofficial. So yeah, I still very much class myself as a beginner rider. I am on my full license, but I'm still new to riding. I'm hoping that I'm going to be riding for many, many years, but at this point I do still consider myself pretty much, or very much, a beginner rider. And yeah, the electric bike is easier, no doubt. Like doing this ride just now, I was interested to see how I'd go jumping back on the gas bike after having ridden the electric bike for quite a few weeks. And yeah, this is more complicated to ride. Even though I have a full license and I've been riding for a fair while now, there's a lot more to do. And if you're a learner and you've never ridden a bike before, like, it's a lot. So yeah, I think there is an argument for electric bikes being a good choice for learners, but they do have their limitations, no doubt, and the range is definitely one of those things for sure. Yeah, no concerns there. Made 100 easy. And the engine braking is, in my opinion, really good on this bike. So the regen on the Surron is pretty cool to have, but I've always enjoyed the engine braking on this bike. Yeah, you're not getting anything back when you use the engine braking on this, or use the brakes, which you would with the regen on the electric, but it's not that much really. If you're keen to share some of your thoughts, drop them down in the comments. Super interested to know what your thoughts are. I am advocating electric bikes, but with hopefully a balanced perspective, so that we're able to have a grown-up, chilled discussion about them and their pros and cons and their uses, and places they're good to use and places they're not good to use. But I think it's easier to call out the places that they're not good to use, because that list is long and obvious. But the list of where they are good to use or potentially good to use, to me that's a fun list to talk about. So this is where I came to the end of the real world range test, the full speed one on the electric bike on the Surron Ultra Bee R, because it got down to 12%, which is where the power pretty much cuts out, and this is saying 48.7 kilometers, so a little bit of a difference. I think maybe 1 kilometer from memory. It was just up here, so let's wait until then. I think it was just here as we got to the park, so still okay. 48.9, so a little bit of difference in, if I'm remembering correctly, a little bit of difference between the two odometers on the two bikes, but still pretty close enough for a non-scientific test. There goes the dream job, motorbike postie in New South Wales.